Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world. Coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for.
Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America tonight, a small copper penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten coin album. It doesn't look powerful. It doesn't look wealthy. And yet, the single 1971 Lincoln 1-cent coin has been valued at up to $921,000. Almost $1 million. Now let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable in a good way. What if the most valuable thing you own isn't in your bank account, but in your pocket change? That thought alone has changed lives, and today, it could change yours. This is not a fantasy. This is not a lottery ticket. This is American history, metal, and timing aligning perfectly. The 1971 Lincoln penny, struck at the San Francisco Mint, has become one of the most talked about error coins among serious collectors and elite buyers. And here's the part most people miss. The majority of these coins were spent, ignored, or stored away by ordinary Americans who had absolutely no idea what they were holding. Just like many people watching right now. Yes, even you. And if your heart just skipped a beat, that's a good sign. Let's rewind for a moment, because every great fortune has an origin story. In 1971, the U.S. Mint was transitioning technologies, tightening production schedules, and pushing massive output. Under pressure, mistakes happened. Tiny ones. Invisible to the untrained eye. But in the world of rare coins, those mistakes became masterpieces. Certain 1971 pennies were struck with extraordinary mint errors, dramatic doubling, off-metal strikes, misaligned dies, and ultra-rare proof anomalies that were never meant to leave the mint. Yet they did. And when they surfaced decades later, collectors didn't just notice, they competed. Here's where excitement turns into urgency. The supply of these high-grade error coins is brutally limited. We're not talking thousands. We're talking about examples that can be counted on one hand. When one appears on the market, it doesn't wait. It doesn't sit. It moves fast, quietly, often behind closed doors, purchased by investors who understand one simple truth: rare coins are portable wealth. No inflation. No bank approval. No market hours. Just value. And when a documented valuation approaches $921,000, that truth becomes impossible to ignore. And now, let me interrupt you for a second, because I know what some people are thinking. Come on, a penny? Yes. A penny. The same coin you might toss into a cup holder without thinking twice. Funny how the smallest things can carry the biggest surprises, isn't it? History has a sense of humor like that. And while most people laugh and move on, a few pay attention, and those few are the ones who win. If fear plays a role here too, and it should. Because every year, priceless coins are lost forever. Cleaned improperly. Spent unknowingly. Sold cheaply at garage sales. And once they're gone, they're gone. The window doesn't stay open. The market for elite Lincoln cent errors is not expanding, it's tightening. Demand continues to rise as high-net-worth collectors, hedge fund investors, and legacy builders seek tangible assets with proven appreciation. Meanwhile, the clock keeps ticking for those who still have coins tucked away, unexamined, waiting for a moment that may never come. But here's the empowering part. Opportunity still exists. Right now. Today. The 1971 penny is one of the last affordable entry, high-upside coins still hiding in plain sight. And the people who benefit most are not professional dealers, they're everyday Americans who took the time to look closer. People who understood that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer. Imagine the shift. One careful inspection. One expert evaluation. One decision. And suddenly, a coin that once bought a piece of candy becomes a catalyst for freedom, security, and a lifestyle built on confidence instead of worry. That's not exaggeration, that's what happens when preparation meets rarity. And the market is paying attention. Serious attention. So before you dismiss this as just another penny, pause. Ask yourself why elite collectors are willing to pay life-changing money for a small copper disc from 1971. Ask yourself why headlines keep appearing about ordinary people discovering extraordinary value. And most importantly, ask yourself this: if you already own the opportunity, wouldn't it be irresponsible not to explore it, because history rewards those who act while others hesitate. The 1971's Lincoln penny error is not waiting for permission. It's not waiting for approval. It's waiting for recognition. And the difference between regret and reward often comes down to a single moment of curiosity. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a dusty shoebox under a bed. It doesn't glitter like gold. It doesn't shout for attention. Yet collectors and investors are willing to pay up to $679,000 for it. And here's the unsettling part: many people have already spent it without ever knowing what they held. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. What if that coin has already passed through your hands? This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness. About vision. About recognizing opportunity before it disappears forever. Today, we're talking about one of the most powerful modern rarities in American coin history, the 1969 Lincoln 1-cent penny with a rare error, a coin that has transformed ordinary Americans into quiet winners almost overnight. And no, this is not hype. This is demand-driven reality. Act 1 begins in 1969, a year remembered for moon landings and social change, but few people realize it also produced one of the most valuable penny errors ever discovered. The Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents that year, but a microscopic mistake occurred during the die creation process. A mistake so subtle that the average person would never notice it, yet so significant that elite collectors consider it a crown jewel. The error created abnormal doubling in die characteristics that were never meant to exist. Once the mint corrected it, the opportunity was gone forever. No redo. No second batch. Scarcity was locked in permanently. Here's where fear quietly enters the room. Most people assume valuable coins look old, worn, or exotic. They don't. This penny looks normal at first glance. That's what makes it dangerous. Dangerous because thousands of people unknowingly spent it. Dangerous because even today, someone may have one and never think twice. Ask yourself, how many pennies have you dismissed in your lifetime? How many small chances did you assume were worthless simply because they looked ordinary? Now Act 2 shifts everything. This is where excitement takes control. When collectors finally identified the true 1969 error penny, the market reacted instantly. Serious money moved in. Auction houses started whispering numbers that didn't feel real for a 1-cent coin. Then came the proof. Verified specimens sold for staggering prices. And today, with demand rising and supply frozen in time, the current market value has reached as high as $679,000 for a confirmed example in premium condition. Let's pause for a second. $679,000. For a penny. If that sentence didn't wake something up inside you, check your pulse. This isn't fantasy. This is economics. High demand plus extreme scarcity equals explosive value. And the most fascinating part? This market is dominated by adults just like you, people between 30 and 65 who understand patience, strategy, and the power of tangible assets. Here's a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest, how much did you spend on coffee last month? Now imagine trading 1 cent for a house, a retirement cushion, or complete financial breathing room. Suddenly the jar of pennies doesn't look so boring, does it? The emotional trigger of urgency comes next. Coins like the 1969 error penny are not becoming more available. They are disappearing into private collections, vaults, and long-term investments. Every year, fewer are accessible. Every year, competition increases. The people who benefit are not the ones who wait for someday. They are the ones who act while others are distracted. Act 3 is where empowerment takes over. This is where you step into control. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You don't need decades of experience. You need awareness, confidence, and decisiveness. The individuals who profit in this space are not gamblers, they are observers. They know that wealth often hides in overlooked places. They understand that history leaves clues, And those clues reward the prepared. Think about this: banks don't advertise opportunities like this. Schools don't teach it. Yet it exists, quietly rewarding those who pay attention. That's why coin collectors who recognize the 1969 penny error don't talk loudly about it. Silence preserves advantage. And now that you're aware, you've crossed an invisible line. You can't unknow this. Let me ask you one final question and let it sit with you. If a single penny can be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, what other opportunities have you been walking past simply because they look small? This is not about greed. This is about readiness. About positioning yourself where high demand meets limited supply. About choosing to look closer when others look away. The 1969 Lincoln penny error is not just a coin, it's proof that wealth does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it whispers. If you're serious about uncovering hidden value, if you believe your future deserves more than average outcomes, then now is the time to start paying attention to what others ignore. Because the next life-changing coin won't wait for permission. And neither should you. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand, 1 cent, the kind most people toss into a jar, drop into a couch cushion, or leave behind at a gas station counter. Now imagine discovering that this one small copper coin could be worth up to $823,000. Not a stock. Not real estate. Not crypto. A penny. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves: what if you already owned one and never knew it? Because today, we are uncovering the remarkable story of the 1970 Lincoln penny, a coin that quietly slipped into circulation and later shocked the coin world with its staggering value. If you've ever saved old change, inherited coins, or felt that instinct that says, "I shouldn't throw this away," then stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change how you look at money forever. This story begins during a time of enormous change in America. The 1970s were a turning point: industries evolving, wealth shifting hands, and opportunity hiding in unexpected places. In Denver, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln cents, day after day, machine after machine. Everything looked normal. Too normal. And that's exactly how the most valuable coin errors are born, hidden in plain sight. Somewhere in that massive production run, something went subtly wrong. A microscopic deviation. A moment where metal, pressure, and timing didn't align perfectly. And that mistake would later become one of the most sought-after Lincoln penny errors ever discovered. Funny how life works, isn't it? The smallest imperfections often create the greatest value. If only we all realized that sooner. Now let me ask you something: have you ever rushed past something valuable because it looked ordinary? Don't worry, we've all done it. That's human nature. But collectors? Serious collectors? They train their eyes to see what others ignore. And when experts finally examined certain 1970 pennies, their reaction wasn't casual curiosity, it was disbelief. This wasn't just a minor error. This was a dramatic and rare, striking anomaly, one that separated a handful of pennies from the hundreds of millions minted that year. Suddenly, a coin that once bought a piece of candy was being discussed in the same breath as luxury cars and retirement portfolios. That's when excitement turns into urgency. Here's where the story accelerates. As word spread through elite collector circles, demand exploded. Auction houses took notice. Private buyers started hunting. And values climbed fast. The market didn't whisper, it roared. One exceptional 1970 Lincoln penny error reached a jaw-dropping valuation of $823,000, not because of hype, but because of rarity, condition, and undeniable demand. Think about that number for a moment. That's not luck. That's leverage. That's history rewarding those who paid attention. And yes, this is the part where most people nervously laugh and say, "You're kidding, it's just a penny." That laugh? That's the sound of missed opportunity echoing through time. But here's the uncomfortable truth: coins like this don't announce themselves. They don't glow. They don't come with warning labels. They sit quietly in drawers, jars, inherited boxes, and forgotten envelopes. Which raises a powerful question: what's hiding in your possession right now? Because the people who profit from rare coins aren't magicians, they're informed. They understand that wealth often disguises itself as something ordinary, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. This is where fear kicks in, not panic, but awareness. The fear of missing what others will gladly pay a fortune for. Let's reset for a second. Quick reality check: how many pennies do you think exist in the average American home? Hundreds? Thousands? And how many people actually examine them closely? Almost none. That gap, that space between ownership and awareness, is where fortunes are quietly made. And yes, it's almost humorous when you think about it. Imagine explaining to your friends that the reason you're smiling is because of a penny. Not a winning lottery ticket. Not a startup exit. A penny. The same coin they wouldn't bother bending down to pick up. That irony alone should make you pause. Now we enter the final act, the moment of decision. This isn't just a story about a coin. It's a story about mindset. About recognizing that the past still pays those who respect it. The 1970 Lincoln penny error stands as proof that opportunity doesn't always look flashy. Sometimes it's quiet, copper-colored, and underestimated. And right now, demand for rare U.S. penny errors is stronger than ever. Collectors are competing. Markets are active. And premium coins are not sitting around waiting, they're being acquired. The window doesn't stay open forever. So here's the opportunity in front of you. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. If you have old pennies, inherited coins, or even jars you've ignored for years, this is your moment to look again with intention. Because history has shown us something powerful: those who act early, who take curiosity seriously, are the ones who benefit when the rest finally catch on. The 1970 penny wasn't valuable because it tried to be. It was valuable because it was rare, real, and recognized by the right people at the right time. And maybe, just maybe, the next extraordinary discovery doesn't belong to a museum or an auction house yet. Maybe it's sitting quietly where no one thought to look. The only question left is this: will you be the person who recognizes it, or the one who hears about it later and says, "I used to have pennies like that"? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten box in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, if the right eyes were to notice it, that humble 1-cent coin could be worth as much as $845,000. This is not fantasy. This is not hype. This is the hidden reality of the 1971 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark and rare error characteristics, a coin most people have already spent without a second thought. And here's the uncomfortable question that should stop you cold for just a second: what if you already own one and didn't know it? Welcome to a world where knowledge creates wealth, where attention beats luck, and where ordinary people quietly step into extraordinary financial moments simply by knowing what to look for. If you've ever held onto old pennies thinking, maybe someday these will matter, today may be the day you realize that instinct was right all along. Because in the coin market right now, demand is not just rising, it is accelerating. Collectors, investors, and auction houses are aggressively hunting rare Lincoln cents, and the 1971 no-mint mark penny with specific errors has become one of the most whispered about targets in serious numismatic circles. Now let's begin Act 1, the moment of ignorance, where almost everyone starts. In 1971, millions of Lincoln cents were produced in the United States, many without a mint mark, meaning they were struck in Philadelphia. At the time, these coins were nothing special. They passed through hands, gas stations, grocery stores, lunch counters, and coffee shops without ceremony. But here's the twist most people never see coming. Inside massive production runs, mistakes happen, and when they happen at the wrong moment, on the wrong die, under the wrong pressure, history is quietly created. Certain 1971 pennies escaped the mint with dramatic errors, off-center strikes, double die features, misaligned dies, and metal flow anomalies that today place them in an entirely different financial category. This is where excitement begins, because these errors were never meant to exist. And let's pause right here for a quick reality check. Be honest, how many pennies have you tossed into a jar without looking? How many have slipped through your fingers at a checkout counter? Funny how the coin worth the least is the one we inspect the least, isn't it? That little habit alone has cost people fortunes. The fear here is real, and it's justified, because once a rare error penny is spent, damaged, or lost, that opportunity is gone forever. No rewind button. No second chance. Just a quiet what if that echoes years later. Act 2 is where awareness turns into power. Over the past decade, the rare coin market has transformed. What was once a quiet hobby has evolved into a serious investment arena. High net worth collectors are competing with institutional buyers, and certified error coins are commanding breathtaking prices at auction. A verified 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with the right error profile and pristine condition has been positioned by elite collectors as a six-figure to near seven-figure asset, with market valuations reported as high as $845,000 when condition, rarity, and demand align perfectly. That number isn't magic, it's the result of scarcity colliding with desire. Here's what makes this moment so powerful. The supply of these coins will never increase. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Never again. Meanwhile, demand continues to grow as more people seek tangible assets outside traditional systems. Coins don't crash. They don't default. They don't disappear in a market correction. They sit quietly, gaining value while the world argues about everything else. And right now, buyers are not asking, should we buy? They're asking, where can we find the next one? Let me ask you something that might make you smile nervously. If someone offered to buy every penny in your house for face value today, would you take the deal? Most people would say yes instantly. But what if one of those pennies was worth more than your house? Suddenly, that jar doesn't look so ordinary anymore. This is where urgency enters the story, because the people who win in this market are not the lucky ones. They are the observant ones. Act 3 is the transformation, the moment where possibility becomes action. This is where you stop seeing pennies as spare change and start seeing them as silent contenders for life-changing value. The 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny represents more than money, it represents awareness. It represents the idea that wealth often hides in places we've been trained to ignore. And today, collectors are paying premiums not just for rarity, but for stories, for anomalies, for coins that defied perfection and survived unnoticed. If you are holding old pennies, especially from the early 1970s, the time to look is not someday. It's now. Every year that passes increases competition, reduces availability, and raises certification standards. The market rewards those who act before everyone else catches on. And make no mistake, people are catching on fast. What was once dismissed as pocket change is now crossing auction blocks under bright lights, drawing gasps, headlines, and serious money. So here's the powerful truth to carry with you. You don't need to mine gold, predict stocks, or invent anything new. Sometimes, wealth is already in your possession, waiting for recognition. The 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark and rare error characteristics stands as proof that small things can hold enormous power. And the only real risk left is ignoring what you already have, because years from now, when stories circulate about pennies that sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, the only question that will matter is this: did you look closely enough when you had the chance? And remember, history doesn't reward the careless spender. It rewards the quiet observer who knew that 1 cent, under the right circumstances, could change everything. Imagine opening a small jar in your kitchen, the kind that's been sitting quietly for decades, filled with ordinary-looking pennies. Now imagine discovering that one of those pennies could be worth up to $655,000. Not because it's gold. Not because it's ancient. But because it's hiding in plain sight. Today, we're talking about the 1977 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, a coin most people have spent without a second thought, and one that a few smart Americans have turned into life-changing wealth. Before you dismiss this, ask yourself one honest question: when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? This story begins in 1977, a year when pennies were being produced by the hundreds of millions in the United States. Inflation was rising, gas prices were climbing, and Americans were focused on survival, not saving coins. The Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at the time, struck massive quantities of Lincoln cents. Most were ordinary. But not all of them. And history has shown us again and again that the most valuable opportunities often come disguised as the most ordinary things. That's where this penny enters the story, not as pocket change, but as a silent contender in one of the hottest collectible markets in America today. Here's where excitement starts to build. Certain 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies left the mint with rare striking errors so subtle that only those who know what to look for ever notice them. We're talking about dramatic off-center strikes, doubled dies that give Lincoln's features an almost ghost-like duplication, misaligned dies that create powerful visual anomalies, and planchet errors that turn copper into a canvas of rarity. These are not damaged coins. These are mint-born mistakes, and collectors pay enormous money for mint mistakes. That's not hype. That's market reality. Now pause for a second. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Most people never check them. They assume value looks obvious. But in coin collecting, value hides in details. And that's where fear creeps in, the fear that you may have already spent something extraordinary without ever knowing it. Or worse, that you're sitting on it right now and time is quietly ticking away, because here's the truth most people won't tell you. The coin market is on fire, and elite collectors are aggressively hunting rare error pennies. Why? Because wealthy collectors don't chase what everyone already knows. They chase what most people overlook. Demand for high-grade, authenticated 1977 no-mint mark error pennies has exploded, and confirmed sales and private offers have reached as high as $655,000 for exceptional examples. That's not fantasy wealth. That's documented, competitive demand driven by scarcity and condition, and let's be clear, this isn't about someday. This is happening now. As more Americans wake up to the value hiding in their change jars, the supply of undiscovered coins shrinks. The window narrows. Prices don't move backward in rare coin markets when demand outpaces supply. They surge forward. So if you're thinking, I'll check later, later may cost you dearly. Humor me for a moment, would you ignore a lottery ticket you already own? Because that's exactly what ignoring your old pennies is starting to look like. This brings us to the turning point of our story. The moment where curiosity turns into action. Somewhere in the United States, someone just like you found a strange-looking 1977 penny. The letters didn't look right. Lincoln's face looked doubled. The coin felt different. Instead of spending it, they paused. They researched. They had it evaluated. And that single decision separated ordinary life from extraordinary opportunity. That's not luck. That's awareness. Now imagine the confidence that comes with knowing you understand something others don't. Imagine holding knowledge that can transform forgotten objects into financial leverage. That's the power of education in the rare coin world. And it's why seasoned collectors never laugh at pennies. They respect them. Because pennies have created millionaires before, and they're doing it again. As we move toward the final act, urgency becomes unavoidable. The United States is already discussing changes to coin production, materials, and even the future of the penny itself. Every policy shift, every mint change, every year that passes adds historical weight to older coins. The 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln cent sits at a perfect intersection of age, production volume, and error rarity. That combination doesn't repeat itself. Once these coins are found, graded, and locked into collections, they're gone from circulation forever. So here's the question that resets everything. What if the most valuable asset you'll ever own isn't something you buy, but something you already have? What if wealth isn't about chasing harder, but about seeing clearer? That's the mindset of people who live comfortably, confidently, and on their own terms. They don't ignore opportunity. They recognize it early. If you have old pennies, especially from the 1970s, now is the time to examine them closely. Look with intention. Look with curiosity. Look with the understanding that markets reward those who act before the crowd arrives. The difference between regret and reward is often just a few moments of attention. This isn't about greed. This is about empowerment. About turning overlooked history into modern-day opportunity. About knowing that wealth sometimes whispers instead of shouts. And right now, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is whispering loudly to those who are listening. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It doesn't sparkle like gold. It doesn't shout for attention. And yet, it carries the potential value of $912,000. Yes, nearly $1 million hidden in plain sight. What if I told you that this penny isn't ancient, isn't mythical, and isn't locked away in a museum? It's a 1978 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, and for the right person, it could be the most important object they've ever owned. Now here's the unsettling question: what if you already have it and don't even know it? Welcome to a story most people will never hear, and even fewer will act on. This is not just about coins. This is about awareness, timing, and the uncomfortable truth that life-changing wealth often passes silently through ordinary hands. And before you laugh and say, "It's just a penny," remember, people once laughed at those who ignored early real estate, early tech stocks, and early opportunities that later defined fortunes. History doesn't reward skepticism. It rewards attention. In 1978, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. To the untrained eye, they all looked the same. But hidden within that massive production were a handful of coins struck under rare and extraordinary conditions, coins that should never have existed in their final form. We're talking about dramatic minting errors, off-metal strikes, doubled dies, misaligned dies, and transitional anomalies that occurred during a period of rapid minting pressure. These errors were not corrected. They escaped into circulation. And for decades, they went unnoticed. Now here's where the fear sets in. Because while you've been busy working, saving, and planning for retirement, others have unknowingly spent these coins on coffee, parking meters, and vending machines. Think about that for a second. A coin capable of commanding $912,000 in today's elite collector market, traded for a soda. Painful, isn't it? But also empowering, because that story isn't over yet, and let's be honest, most people assume wealth must look impressive. Big houses, fancy cars, offshore accounts. But real wealth hunters know a secret: value hides where laziness lives. And very few people bother to inspect pennies. The 1978 D Lincoln cent has become one of the most talked about modern era coins among high-end collectors. Why? Because when the right error is present, it becomes a perfect storm of rarity, demand, and historical significance. These coins are aggressively pursued by serious buyers, private collectors, and auction houses who understand one thing very clearly: supply is frozen, and demand is accelerating. Let's reset your attention for a second. Quick question: when was the last time you actually looked closely at your loose change? Be honest. If your answer is, "I can't remember," congratulations, you're exactly like most people. And that's why opportunity still exists. Collectors are not looking for average coins. They are hunting anomalies. Coins that break the rules. Coins that tell a story of imperfection in a system designed for precision. And the 1978 D-era penny does exactly that. When authenticated and graded, the right specimen doesn't just sell, it ignites bidding wars. This is not theory. This is not hype. This is how elite markets operate when scarcity meets obsession. Here's the exciting part. You don't need to be a coin expert. You don't need a vault. You don't need luck, only awareness and action. Many of these coins were found by ordinary Americans. Retirees. Mechanics. Teachers. People who simply decided to look twice instead of tossing pennies aside like yesterday's news. And let's inject a little humor here, because it matters. Imagine telling your financial advisor that the best investment you ever made wasn't stocks or real estate, it was refusing to ignore a penny. Awkward silence. Raised eyebrows. Then disbelief. And finally respect. Right now, the market for rare error pennies is hotter than ever. Inflation fears, economic uncertainty, and a renewed interest in tangible assets have pushed collectors toward items with proven historical value. And the 1978 D Lincoln error cent sits confidently in that spotlight. The window is open, but it will not remain open forever. Here's the hard truth. As more people become aware, fewer opportunities remain. Coins get certified. Collections get locked away. Prices climb. And the casual discovery phase ends. This is the moment where hesitation costs money. This is where people say, "I was going to check my coins," and someone else says, "I already sold mine." Picture this instead. You find an unusual 1978 D penny. You have it professionally evaluated. It's authenticated. Graded. Confirmed. Suddenly, you're no longer watching stories about wealth, you're inside one. You're making decisions from a position of power. You're choosing options, not hoping for them. This isn't about greed. It's about preparedness. It's about understanding that wealth favors those who pay attention when others are distracted. And it's about respecting the reality that small things, when rare and authentic, can completely redefine your future. So before you dismiss this, before you scroll away, before you assume someone else will find it, ask yourself one final question. If a single penny could legitimately change your financial trajectory, wouldn't it be irresponsible not to look? Because the difference between those who struggle and those who thrive is often one simple habit: the willingness to inspect what others ignore. And right now, the humble 1978 Lincoln penny is waiting for someone who understands its power. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, inside an old jar, a dusty drawer, or a forgotten coin roll from decades ago, sits a single penny. Not gold. Not silver. Just 1 cent. And yet, that penny has quietly crossed the auction block for as much as $761,000. Not because it was supposed to be special, but because it wasn't. And today, that exact opportunity may still be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. The question is not if these coins exist. The real question is far more uncomfortable. What if you already own one and never realized it? Welcome to a story most people will never hear, and even fewer will act on. This is the story of the 1979 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin struck in Denver during an era of massive production, rushed minting, and overlooked quality control. Millions of these coins were released into circulation, passed from hand to hand, spent without a second thought. But buried within that ocean of ordinary pennies are extraordinary error coins, mistakes so rare, so visually striking, and so desirable that elite collectors now compete fiercely to own them. And competition drives value. Serious value. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever picked up a penny and thought, there's no way this could change my life? That belief alone has already cost people fortunes. Because while most Americans were ignoring pocket change, a small group of informed collectors and sellers were quietly cashing in. The 1979 penny is not valuable because of nostalgia. It is valuable because of minting errors that were never meant to leave the US Mint, yet somehow did. Errors such as dramatic off-center strikes, doubled dies so sharp they appear almost intentional, wrong planchet strikes where the coin was minted on the incorrect metal, and misalignments that transformed an everyday penny into a six-figure artifact. These are not theories. These are documented auction results. This is where the story turns, because fear enters the picture. Fear of missing out. Fear of having already lost something priceless. Fear of realizing that what you dismissed as just a penny could have paid off your home, funded retirement, or reshaped your family's future. And here's the uncomfortable truth: every year, fewer of these error coins remain undiscovered. Every year, more collectors enter the market. Demand rises. Supply shrinks. And prices respond accordingly. This is not hype. This is economics, but excitement follows close behind that fear, because unlike stocks, unlike real estate, unlike businesses that require massive upfront capital, this opportunity may already be sitting in your possession. No special license. No insider access. Just awareness and action. And the people who act first are the ones who benefit most. Let me be clear, top-tier collectors are actively hunting high-grade 1979 error pennies right now. Auction houses are watching. Dealers are calling. The market is not cooling off, it is heating up now. Quick pattern break: be honest with yourself for a second. When was the last time a penny made you stop scrolling? Exactly. That's why this works. Because while everyone else is distracted by headlines and noise, smart sellers focus on overlooked assets. And pennies are the most overlooked asset of all. Funny how the smallest denomination can carry the largest surprise, isn't it? As we move into the final act of this story, urgency takes center stage. The window is open, but it is not permanent. As awareness spreads, the quiet advantage disappears. Coins get certified. Collections get locked away. Prices stabilize at higher levels. The early movers win. The latecomers watch. This is how every wealth cycle works, whether in coins, art, or real estate. And right now, the 1979 D Lincoln cent error market is still in its golden window for discovery. Imagine the confidence of knowing exactly what to look for. Imagine holding a penny up to the light and realizing it doesn't look like the others. Imagine the moment when a professional grader confirms what you suspected all along, that you're not holding pocket change, you're holding an asset. An asset the market is hungry for. An asset with documented sales reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is not about luck. This is about positioning, and here's the most powerful part of all. You don't need millions to enter a market where coins are worth millions. You only need knowledge, decisiveness, and the willingness to take your own collection seriously. The people who build wealth rarely do so by following the crowd. They do it by paying attention to what others ignore. So tonight, tomorrow, or the next time you open a drawer or roll of pennies, remember this story. Remember that history does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it whispers from the bottom of a jar. The 1979 D Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It is a reminder that opportunity often comes disguised as something ordinary. And those who recognize it first are the ones who reap the reward. Imagine opening a small jar of pennies that has been sitting quietly in your home for decades, never asking for attention, never making a sound, yet holding the silent potential to change everything. Now imagine that one of those pennies, a simple brown Lincoln cent dated 1985 with a small D beneath the date, is no longer pocket change at all. It is a six-figure asset. A headline-making coin. A collector's obsession. And in one extraordinary case, a verified example of this exact penny has commanded a staggering market value of $874,000. Before you dismiss that number, pause for just a moment. Because the greatest financial surprises in history rarely arrive dressed like wealth. They arrive disguised as ordinary. This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness. And awareness, when acted upon, has a way of creating opportunity where others see nothing. Let me ask you something quickly. Have you ever spent a penny without really looking at it? Most people have. And that single habit has quietly cost Americans millions. Act 1 begins in a time that feels familiar. The mid-1980s. Ronald Reagan was president. Gas was cheap. Pennies were minted by the billions, especially at the Denver Mint. The 1985 D Lincoln cent flooded circulation, used in grocery stores, vending machines, and coffee counters across the country. No one stopped to admire it. No one thought it was special. And that is exactly why it became dangerous in the best possible way. Because hidden within mass production is where the rarest errors are born. When speed replaces precision, mistakes happen. And in coin collecting, mistakes are not flaws. They are fortunes. Some 1985 D Lincoln cents escaped the mint carrying dramatic and undeniable minting errors. We're talking about doubled dice so strong they can be seen without magnification. Misaligned strikes that break the rules of geometry. Transitional metal composition anomalies that defy expectations. Errors so bold that collectors don't debate them, they compete for them. One elite specimen, preserved in exceptional condition and verified by top grading authorities, ignited a bidding war that pushed its value to an astonishing $874,000. That is not hype. That is demand. Now here's where excitement quietly turns into urgency. Because while that exact coin is rare, the possibility is not. These pennies were released into circulation. They were spent. They were saved. They were forgotten. Some are still sitting in dresser drawers, old coffee cans, inherited collections, and yes, even in your own home. And every year that passes, fewer of them remain undiscovered. Time is not neutral here. Time is selective. It rewards those who act early and punishes those who assume later will come. Let's interrupt this for a second with a simple thought. If I offered you a lottery ticket with better odds than the lottery itself, would you throw it away? Of course not. Yet millions of people unknowingly do exactly that with rare pennies. The difference is this lottery ticket doesn't cost you anything. You already own it. Act 2 is where the emotional shift happens. This is where fear, excitement, and possibility collide. Fear of having already spent something valuable. Excitement at the realization that you may still have time. And possibility, the most powerful trigger of all. Because collectors today are not casually browsing, they are aggressively acquiring. The demand for rare Lincoln cents has exploded as tangible assets regain favor and wealth moves away from fragile systems into physical, historical objects. Coins with verified errors are no longer curiosities. They are status symbols. High net worth collectors are not asking whether these coins will hold value. They are asking how many they can secure before prices move again. Auction houses are spotlighting error cents like never before. Population reports are tightening. And every new discovery fuels the market even further. This is not a declining niche. This is a rising one. Here's a question most people never ask themselves, and it changes everything once they do. What if the reason this information keeps finding you is because you're meant to act on it? History shows us that wealth often moves quietly from the impatient to the prepared. The people who win are rarely the loudest. They're the most observant. Act 3 is about decision. Because information without action is entertainment, not transformation. If you own 1985 D Lincoln pennies, your responsibility is not to guess their value, but to verify it. The difference between a common cent and a six-figure coin can be invisible to the untrained eye and unmistakable to the right expert. This is why serious sellers don't speculate. They authenticate. They grade. They position their coins where demand is highest and competition is fiercest. Picture this moment clearly. A collector leaning forward during an auction. Another bidder raises the price. A third refuses to back down. The room goes quiet as numbers climb. And all of it traces back to a single decision someone made years earlier, to not ignore a penny. That decision is available to you right now. Let's add a bit of perspective and a smile. People chase wealth through complicated schemes, risky investments, and endless stress. Meanwhile, a small copper coin has been quietly outperforming expectations, sitting calmly in collections, waiting for someone to recognize it. Sometimes the smartest money move is simply paying attention. This market rewards confidence, timing, and knowledge. If you're holding old pennies, especially from the mid-1980s, you are holding possibility. Not every coin will be extraordinary, but extraordinary coins are never obvious at first. That's the paradox that creates opportunity. As we come to the end of this story, understand this clearly. The demand is real. The market is active. The money is moving. And the window for undiscovered coins is narrowing. Wealth does not announce itself with noise. It whispers. And today, that whisper sounds a lot like the soft clink of a 1985 D Lincoln penny. Look again. Act deliberately. Because the next life-changing asset in America may not be locked in a vault or traded on a screen. It may already be in your hands. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a penny. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. Just a single copper-colored Lincoln cent that most people would toss into a jar, leave in a car cup holder, or spend without a second thought. Now here's the uncomfortable question that should stop you cold. What if that penny is worth more than your house? What if the quietest object in your home is secretly screaming six figures? Today, we are talking about the 1997 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin so underestimated, so overlooked, that it has already changed the financial destiny of collectors who knew what to look for, while everyone else kept walking past opportunity. This is not hype. This is not wishful thinking. This is the uncomfortable truth about rare coin errors in America. Wealth rarely announces itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes, it disguises itself as a penny minted in Denver in 1997, sitting unnoticed for decades. If you've ever thought, there's no way something this small could be worth that much, congratulations. That exact belief is why the opportunity still exists. Let's step into Act 1, where ignorance feels safe, but is actually expensive. In 1997, the Denver Mint produced millions of Lincoln cents. They were meant to be ordinary, efficient, and forgettable. But history doesn't care about intention. It cares about mistakes. During production, rare minting errors occurred that slipped past quality control and entered circulation. Coins with dramatic misalignments, doubled dies, off-center strikes, and metal flow anomalies were born quietly, without fanfare. These were not supposed to exist. And when something isn't supposed to exist, collectors don't just want it. They chase it. Here's where the fear kicks in. These coins were spent. They were used. They were lost. Or worse, they're still sitting in someone's drawer, unrecognized, while the owner assumes they missed their chance at financial freedom. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many pennies have passed through your hands since 1997? Hundreds? Thousands? What if one of them was the one? Now let's break the tension for a second, because this part always makes people laugh nervously. People will spend 20 minutes comparing gas prices to save $2, but won't spend 20 seconds looking at a penny that could be worth $665,000. Funny how that works, isn't it? As collectors and grading experts began to identify specific high-level error examples of the 1997 Lincoln cent, demand exploded quietly behind the scenes. These are not coins you casually list at a garage sale. These are coins that go through professional authentication, elite grading services, and private negotiations with serious buyers. Wealthy collectors don't browse casually. They hunt decisively. And when a top-tier error surfaces in pristine condition, the market responds fast and aggressively. The current market value reaching as high as $665,000 isn't accidental. It's the result of rarity colliding with desire. There are more millionaires in America than ever before, and many of them are turning to tangible assets they can hold, control, and pass down. Rare coins check every box. Limited supply. Historical significance. Proven appreciation. And unlike digital assets, they don't vanish with a password. Here's the urgency most people miss. Coins like this don't become more available over time. They disappear into private collections. They get locked away. When demand rises and supply tightens, the window closes quietly. Not with a headline. Not with an announcement. It just closes. And people realize too late that the opportunity didn't leave, they ignored it. Let me reset your attention with a simple question. If someone offered you a lottery ticket with better odds than the lottery, would you at least look at it? Because that's exactly what searching for rare pennies is. Except instead of buying a ticket, you already own the drawer. The individuals who profit from coins like the 1997 error cent aren't lucky. They're informed. They understand that wealth favors awareness. They inspect. They verify. They authenticate. And when they discover something extraordinary, they move decisively. This isn't about dreaming. This is about recognizing that history sometimes rewards the patient, the observant, and the prepared. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop seeing pennies as spare change and start seeing them as potential assets. Suddenly, that old jar isn't clutter. It's inventory. That inherited collection isn't nostalgia. It's leverage. And that 1997 penny you've never examined closely becomes a question mark with life-changing upside. Let's be clear. Not every penny is rare. But every rare penny looks ordinary to someone who doesn't know what to look for. And that's the gap where fortunes are made. Right now, serious buyers are actively searching for high-grade, authenticated examples. Demand isn't slowing down. It's becoming more selective. The coins that surface next will command attention, competition, and premium offers. Here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Opportunity doesn't knock loudly. It doesn't beg. It waits. And eventually, it moves on to someone else who is paying attention. The 1997 Lincoln cent error isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that wealth often hides where people stop looking. So before you dismiss the pennies in your possession, before you assume someone else already found all the valuable ones, pause. Inspect. Verify. Because the difference between financial regret and financial confidence can be as thin as a copper disc minted in Denver nearly 3 decades ago, and if you ever wondered whether something small could change everything, history has already answered that question. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand. 1 cent, something most people toss into a jar, drop into a couch cushion, or leave behind at a gas station counter. Now let me ask you a question that might make you sit up straight. What if that 1 penny was quietly worth $888,000? Not someday. Not maybe. Right now. Because hidden in plain sight across the United States is a rare 2016 D Lincoln 1-cent coin error that has already rewritten lives, and the terrifying truth is this: most people who owned it already spent it, without ever knowing what they had. This is not a fantasy. This is not hype. This is the uncomfortable reality of modern coin collecting, where ordinary Americans unknowingly let generational wealth slip through their fingers every single day. And if that makes you a little uneasy, good, because that feeling is awareness waking up. The 2016 D Lincoln penny looks innocent, familiar, forgettable. Abraham Lincoln stares back the same way he always has. But beneath that familiar face lies a minting anomaly so rare, so aggressively sought after by elite collectors, that it has pushed verified market values as high as $888,000. And yes, this happened in our lifetime. Not ancient history. Not your grandfather's coin. This came from your pocket, your change jar, your glove compartment. Now here's where the story gets interesting. The Denver Mint produced billions of pennies in 2016, and yet only a microscopic fraction escaped with a catastrophic minting error, an error so visually subtle that untrained eyes miss it completely, but so valuable that professional numismatists feel their pulse spike when they see it. This is the kind of error that doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door in. The kind that turns a 1-cent coin into a luxury asset. And before you ask, no, this is not the type of coin you casually find listed on eBay for $12.99. This is the type that moves through private auctions, whispered phone calls, and sealed envelopes. High demand. Limited supply. No second chances. Let's pause for a second, be honest with yourself. How many pennies have you handled in the last year? Hundreds? Thousands? Now here's the uncomfortable punchline: statistically, someone watching this video has already touched one of these coins. And statistically, most people watching will never realize it unless they slow down and look. That's the fear. The silent loss. The missed opportunity that never announces itself. Coins don't scream when they're valuable. They wait, but fear alone isn't the story. Because where most people see risk, the prepared see advantage. Collectors and investors understand something the average person doesn't. Error coins are not flaws, they are miracles. They are one-time manufacturing accidents that can never be recreated. The moment the mint corrects the problem, the door slams shut forever. That's exactly what happened with the 2016 D penny error. Once discovered, the supply froze in time. Demand, however, exploded. And when demand rises against a fixed supply, prices don't climb politely, they surge. Now let me reset your attention with a quick reality check. If someone offered you $888,000 in exchange for a penny, would you take 5 seconds to look at your change jar tonight? Of course you would. And yet millions of Americans still haven't. That's not because they're lazy, it's because no one ever told them this was possible. This is the moment that changes the dot. Here's what makes this coin so powerful: it sits at the intersection of scarcity, credibility, and timing. Lincoln pennies are universally recognized. The Denver Mint is globally respected. And the 2016 date is modern enough to still be circulating. That combination is explosive. It means this coin hasn't been locked away in museums or private vaults for decades. It's still out there, hiding among ordinary cents, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Someone like you. As awareness spreads, urgency becomes unavoidable. Every day that passes, more of these coins are discovered and pulled out of circulation. Every discovery tightens the market. Every auction sets a new psychological benchmark. And here's the part most people miss: collectors don't wait until everyone agrees. They move early. They move quietly. And they pay aggressively for verified examples. When a coin reaches this level of demand, hesitation becomes expensive. Now let's inject a little humor before we go further. Isn't it ironic? People will research for months before buying a television, but won't spend 5 minutes examining the coins already in their possession. That's like owning a lottery ticket and never checking the numbers. Funny, until you realize how real it is. This is where Act 3 begins, because this isn't just a story about a coin. It's a story about awareness, positioning, and control. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it disguises itself as something ordinary and waits to see who's paying attention. The 2016 D. Lincoln penny era represents a rare moment where knowledge alone can change your financial trajectory. You don't need a new job. You don't need a loan. You don't need permission. You need attention, and the market is watching. High-end collectors, grading services, and private buyers are actively searching for these coins right now. Not next year. Not someday. Right now. The demand is real, the money is real, and the window is narrowing. This is not about speculation, it's about recognition. The people who win in this space aren't the loudest. They're the most informed. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you hear that familiar clink of change, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Because history has already proven something extraordinary: one overlooked penny can rewrite a future. And the only difference between those who profit and those who don't is a single decision: to pay attention before everyone else does.